Hello and welcome to Krannich Solar webinar. This evening I'm here with Yassin from BYD. Hi Yassin.
Hi, Katharina, and very happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here as well. So, regarding today's presentation, you can find the material under the tab Materials. Please download it, make sure that you have it. We're not going to send it to you afterwards. So please make sure that you download it. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to state your questions in the question window. We will take our time to answer them later in a short Q&A. And yeah, I think that's about it from my side. So Yassin will take over from now, and I'm going to be in the back, and you will see me later again. Wishing you all good time.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So welcome also from my side. My name is Yassin Mahioui from EFT Systems, which is the service partner of BYD, and we will take some 45 to 60 minutes to present to you BYD as a company and also the latest developments and the new product portfolio that BYD is bringing out this year. So it's week 2 after Intersolar 2025, and Intersolar was quite exceptional because, again, BYD is bringing quite some new products into the market. Why? Because BYD is very proud to celebrate 10 years of anniversary with the Battery-Box product portfolio. So 10 years in the market is quite a bit of time in the market, and over the last 10 years with the residential product portfolio, BYD has proven time after time that it is able to bring innovations to customers all around Europe. And BYD did it again now, 10 years, with 10-year anniversary with a completely new product portfolio that they introduced at Intersolar. And for those of you that didn't have the chance to visit us on our booth, we will have today the opportunity to talk about the latest and greatest products. Before we get started, let's talk about BYD and EFT. So you might ask yourself, well, why are those two different companies? BYD is the manufacturer of the batteries with around about 1 million employees, a real giant in the area of renewable energies that specializes on all sorts all around battery production. And we, on the other side, from EFT Systems, we are a European-based company that understands itself as a service provider. So whenever you have a question, a problem, warranty-related topics, and also trainings like this one, we would be the one that can help you out. So with that being said, let's get started and have a look into BYD. What does it stand for? Quite literally, what does BYD, the 3 letters, stand for? Well, it stands for Build Your Dreams. So to really understand the company, you have to understand what BYD is dreaming of. And BYD is dreaming of a zero-emission ecosystem. So what that means is it tries to put itself along the value chain of renewable energies and tries to avoid emissions wherever possible. How, you ask? Well, by covering the 3 main pillars of renewable energy. Number 1 is renewable energy production. BYD is also a producer and manufacturer of PV panels. So with that, we have covered the renewable solar energy production. Check. The question is, what do we do with all the renewably generated energy? Well, it would be good if we could store it somewhere. And that's also something that BYD covers with batteries of different shapes and sizes, like, for example, the Battery-Box product portfolio for residential applications. So this way we would have energy production with PV panels from BYD. Then we have storage with the Battery-Box product portfolio. And then the question, of course, is valid to ask, what should we do with all the generated and stored energy? Wouldn't it be nice if BYD also has some business area where this clean energy can be used in a sustainable way? Well, BYD is also one of the producers of electric vehicles, not just one of the producers, but the biggest producer of electric vehicles globally. So this proves that the whole renewable energy chain is covered: production, storage, and also usage of the renewable energy with PV panels, with batteries, and with the cars from BYD. As just said, it's a giant in the area of renewable energy with around about 1 million employees, so really, really big. And if there's one thing that you need to know about this company, one, let's say, sentence, then it's full control. What do we mean with that? Well, while other so-called residential battery producers, they rely on external cell supply. So they take the cells supplied by other companies, they put it in together with their BMS in a casing, and then they say made by them. For BYD, on the other side, everything is really made by BYD. So not only the BMS, not only the software or the casing or the design, but also the core component of the battery, the cells that define everything from performance to safety to efficiency to reliability. Also, the cells are produced by BYD themselves. So what you can see here is it even starts one step uh, beyond that, which is with the mining of the resources. BYD even owns some of the lithium, some of the valuable lithium mines. So from the resources up to the most important component, which is the battery cell, to the BMS development, to the design of the residential storage application, up to the recycling. So from A to Z, everything is covered within one manufacturer, which is really unique in that area. Especially if you visited Intersolar 2 weeks ago and you walk around the halls of that big exhibition, you might find yourself with a lot of so-called battery manufacturers that bring products into a residential market. But most of those so-called residential battery manufacturers, they don't really produce battery cells. For BYD, however, they do produce the battery cells, and it's important to keep in mind because again, it's the cell that defines nearly everything that regarding efficiency, performance, reliability, and so on. Also, fully by fully controlling the value chain, BYD is also able to bring innovations in all of those single steps. So we talked already about it. The cell is the core component of the system because it's the cell that really defines safety, reliability, performance, efficiency. And again, it's the inside that matters. And the good thing is with BYD, it's fully transparent because you always know what you get. You get a system powered by BYD cells inside. And here you see, for example, the latest and greatest cell development from BYD, which is the blade cell. BYD is focusing on lithium iron phosphate cells, LFP, which are especially popular because they are very stable. So they have one of the highest thermal stabilities among lithium ion batteries, and that proves a high safety. Now, safety is something that everybody likes to talk about, but it's something that you shouldn't only talk about, it should be something that you can prove. So let's talk about safety for a minute. BYD, again, as one of the pioneers in the area of LFP, lithium iron phosphate cell developments, really pushes that technology since over 25 years and is a pioneer in that area. And here you see how those cells look like. They're typically prismatic LFP cells. And you see that BYD really tests them, for example, with external force applied to the cells or to put them into ovens with high temperature to prove the high thermal stability. But also, as you can see here on the bottom, there is a so-called nail penetration test where you take a cell and then you penetrate it with a nail to see what happens. And with the blade cell, especially, nothing really happens. I have a video later that shows it. But that again proves the superior safety of the LFP cells made by BYD. And we like to not only talk about safety with words, we also like to prove it. So what we have now is over 1 million battery box systems in the field. Those residential PV residential systems, over 1 million systems. On average, such a battery tower has, let's say, 4 modules on average. So we talk about over 4 million installed modules, over 1 million systems, which is a giant number. But to put it into context and perspective, we need to talk about a small number too, which is the number of safety incidents. And luckily, so far, we had 0 safety incidents. Over 1 million systems, but 0 safety incidents. And that's safety that is not just said, but that's actually proven with all the 100,000s of systems all around Europe that just run reliably. And with such a high number, you can be you can be rest assured that we've seen everything. Modules that fell down during transport. We had systems that were affected by flooding in different areas of Europe. But despite those external challenging conditions, we never had any safety incident whatsoever, which again proves the superior safety of the LFP cells made by BYD. Let's talk about some other advantages that the residential product portfolio from BYD brings to you as installers, but also to the end clients. And another point that is a big benefit is efficiency. Now, efficiency, again, is something that a lot of competitors and manufacturers like to talk about. But when it comes to proving the values, not everybody really likes to be transparent. BYD likes to be transparent. So there is an efficiency test from a University of Berlin. So the University of Berlin, since let's say 7 or 8 years, they do yearly efficiency tests and they test the available storage systems in the market regarding their system efficiency. And BYD, since the very beginning, is participating in that test year after year. And what we can see now after 8 years of participating in the test is that the high voltage system of BYD ranks among the most efficient systems in the market. That efficiency study from the University of Berlin is very, very sophisticated. I mean, they check everything from standby losses, conversion losses from AC to DC, everything that you can imagine is included in there. It's over 50 pages of scientific research. It's available in German, in English, and also in different languages. And again, it's an external facility. It is a university in Berlin, so super neutral. And they test not only BYD, but also other manufacturers. And they give those manufacturers different efficiency classes based on the performance they show regarding efficiency. Now, again, BYD participated since the very beginning, and especially with the high voltage series, BYD successfully was able to rank among the top with regard to system efficiency. And the question, of course, is why is that relevant? Why is it good to have a high efficiency? Well, for the installer, that might not be too big of a difference, but for the end client, for the system operator, that makes a big difference. Imagine two neighbors, let's say neighbor A with an efficient system and neighbor B with a non-efficient system. After 1 day or 2 days, or let's say 1 to 2 cycles, that's not really a big difference, right? Well, the thing is, the systems have 10 years of warranty, so they should operate well beyond 10 years. And after 10 years of life cycle, that even small looking difference makes a big difference after the lifetime of the product. And that's not only something that we say or the colleagues from Krannich, but also that University of Berlin. So what they did is not only check the performance regarding efficiency of every system, but they also checked what kind of impact it gives for the end client. So again, they classify those systems with different, let's say, efficiency classes, and BYD ranks among efficiency class A, which is the most efficient efficiency class. But there are also some systems that the university has tested with the efficiency class of G. So there's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And between the most efficient class A and the least efficient class G, again, if you compare those two systems in 1 day of operation, you wouldn't really tell the difference. But after 1 year or 10 years, it really does make a difference, especially for the system operator, for the system owner, a difference that you can translate into money. So after 1 year of operation, if you compare the most efficient with the least efficient class, you will have a difference of 180 euro that the end client could save or not save after 1 year. However, the systems have 10 years of warranty. That means after the life cycle of 10 years that there is a significant difference of 1,800 euro between the two neighbors A and B. Remember, neighbor A had an efficient system from BYD, for example, and neighbor B had a non-efficient system, for example, efficiency class G, and then it makes a big difference after 1 year, 180 euro, and after 10 years, 1,800 euro. So again, efficiency is a big topic, especially for end clients. And whenever you find yourself discussing the topic with end clients, just forward them to the efficiency study from the University of Berlin. Again, it's a over 50-page scientific review where you can check all the parameters that have led into the performance rating of every system they checked. Okay, so now we've talked about BYD being a giant in the area of battery cell production. We talked about super safe cell technology thanks to LFP and also blade cells. And then we also talked about the very high efficiency that has been proven with the University of Berlin year after year. Are there any additional advantages for the battery box? Well, yeah, flexibility. So with a quite small product portfolio, BYD is able to give you a toolbox to design systems in different capacity ranges. So the smallest system starts with 4 kilowatt hours, but you can parallel connect multiple of those systems with each other. And depending which product you choose, you can reach capacities of up to 983 kilowatt hours. So from very small, 4 kilowatt hours, to medium sized, let's say 66 kilowatt hours, to very, very big, to 983 kilowatt hours. With a small product portfolio from BYD in the residential battery application, you are able to basically provide the perfect solution to your end clients, no matter what the demand of the end client is. The good thing is, flexibility is not only meant at the time of designing the system, BYD also wants flexibility later on. What does that mean? Well, let's imagine you, as installers, you don't know if you want to install 6 kilowatt hours or 8 kilowatt hours, let's say. Yeah. In that case, you can always go for the smaller capacity range because the systems can be extended at any given time in the future. So even though you made the system a tiny bit too small, you can extend the battery tower after 1 year, after 2 years, after 4 years. It doesn't really matter. Just with the high voltage series HVS, HVM, you need to make sure that the SoC is aligned to 30%. But apart from that, there is no time restriction whatsoever. So you can extend any given system at any given time. And that really means that the system is flexible also to the needs of the end client. So if the needs of the end client grow over the next few years, for example, because the family is increasing, there are more kids, or everybody has an electric vehicle in front of their garage. So if the demand is increasing, you can take the existing system and just extend additional modules so the battery tower increases with the capacity demands of the customer. So it's super flexible. Talking about flexible also means that the system itself is flexible in terms of environmental conditions. So of course you can install the battery box, the residential battery application from BYD indoors. That's not a problem, like for example the basement or in the garage and so on. But you can also install it outdoors thanks to a high IP rating of IP55. So it doesn't matter if indoor or outdoor application, those systems are very reliable. And the temperature range that is allowed for the previous product generation is -10 to +50 degree. And for the new product generation, which I'm about to present in a few minutes, it has been even increased a bit further, the temperature range. But either way, it is a very high temperature range from -10 to +50 degree, where both is allowed, charging and discharging, which makes the battery really, really reliable. It doesn't matter what kind of environmental conditions you're in. One last point about flexibility. So the existing product portfolio from BYD, for example, the HVS, HVM, LVS, and LVL, both high voltage and low voltage, they're very flexible also because you can combine those battery systems with different inverter brands, inverter manufacturers. Which ones, you might ask? Well, a lot of them, like for example, SMA, like Costal, like Fronius, like SolarEdge, like GoodWe, like Sangro, and so on and so forth. And that again is a big advantage for installers, especially because the installer is able to design the system to make it tailor-made to the needs of the end client. So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It is rather a system that you can tailor-made that you can design tailor-made to the end client's needs. So it doesn't matter if you want single-phase or three-phase configuration. The battery supports both. So it really depends on the inverter. It doesn't matter if you want to do on-grid, backup, or off-grid because the battery supports all three configurations. It doesn't matter if you want to do DC coupling or AC coupling because the batteries support both. It really comes down to the inverter you choose, and here you have quite some flexibility to choose the inverter you like. And that is a big advantage, especially in the current, let's say, geopolitical difficult situation where from one day to the other, some supply chains might be interrupted again. I mean, just think of the container boat that was stuck in the Suez Canal. Remember that? If something like that happens, then you might be waiting for your inverter quite a bit. So let's say you as an installer, you designed BYD battery with inverter A, and inverter A, for whatever reason, cannot be delivered at the moment. In that case, no problem, because thanks to the high flexibility and compatibility of the BYD battery, you can just consider swapping the system to inverter B. You stick to BYD as a battery, you just swap the inverter, and then you're able to bring a solution to the customer that is waiting for the installation completion. So that again gives you quite some flexibility. So we have high efficiency rated by the University in Berlin, high safety thanks to lithium iron phosphate cells, high flexibility both in capacity but also in system topology thanks to complex compatibility with different inverter brands. And all of that together, combined with the successful partnership with Krannich and the partnership with every one of you installers, is the reason why we were able to celebrate a milestone of over 1 million installed systems. That picture here is actually from Intersolar last year, where we celebrated that milestone. So by now we have way more than 1 million systems installed. And again, the average per tower is, let's say, 4 modules. So we talk about over 4 million modules, which is a huge number. The biggest market for the battery box here is Germany. And you can see here also, let's say, the market share of BYD, which is significant, as you can see here. And here again, thank you for all the partners. And this year, BYD celebrated 10 years anniversary. And with that milestone, 10 years anniversary, #1 in Germany, BYD is really confident with the new development that they bring into the market, which I'm about to show to you in a few minutes, to really reshape again the way we think of renewable energy storage applications. Before we have a look into the new product portfolio, let's look into some examples of those 1 million systems. Because again, 1 million systems, most of them in Europe, they're very, very different. Some are small capacities, some are medium sized, some are big capacities. Some are AC coupled, DC coupled, one phase, three phase. They're very, very different applications, but since the BYD Battery-Box is so flexible and reliable, it's typically one of the first options for customers all around Europe. So let's have a view into some of the examples. I start with standard application and then go to more, let's say, interesting examples later on, okay? So let's get started with some standard applications. What do we have here? Well, what we have here is a standard self-consumption case, self-consumption optimization case, somewhere in the suburbs of a German city. So that's a real case, that's a real family, it's not stock footage, that's real. And that family has a 7.2 kilowatt peak of PV generation installed on the rooftop. What do they want to do? Well, they want to optimize to increase the self-consumption by installing a battery system too. In that case, it's an HVM, the high voltage system from BYD with 16.6 kilowatt hour and combined with a three-phase hybrid inverter from Costa Atlanticore. So what you have here, voila, is a system that is able to optimize the self-consumption of that family to make sure that they use as much of the selfly produced energy as possible. Now, self-consumption optimization is something that I guess I don't have to explain to you because that's your daily business. So that's a scenario that you could also cover with a different battery manufacturer, right? Well, as promised, let's look into some more exciting examples. The same battery for that family can also be used for bigger applications, as for example here, again, an example from Germany, but this time it's not a family, it's a hotel. So we went from residential application to a commercial application. Why? Because a hotel has, let's say, more energy need, more power need. They also have a bigger rooftop, so they have a higher PV generation installed on the rooftop. So in this case, it's not 7.2 kilowatt peak, it's 72 kilowatt peak, 10 times as much PV. And because a hotel generally needs more energy because they have more rooms, they also need a higher battery. So in this case, it's still the same battery type, it's still the HVM, but instead of 16.6 kilowatt hours, that HVM system has 66 kilowatt hours. How? Well, by extending, by adding additional modules into a tower, but also by parallel connecting multiple towers. It's possible to connect up to 3 towers, which gives you a theoretical, or like in this case, even practical capacity of 66 kilowatt hour. So what that example proves is that the same battery that can be used for residential applications can also be used for small commercial applications because again, it's very flexible. So if you find yourself in a situation where the battery sizing is too small, you can extend at any given time. Now, as I promised to you, we don't want to look only into those standard examples. Let's also look into some non-standard exciting examples. So self-consumption optimization for a family or for a hotel, covered. Let's leave self-consumption optimization for a second. Let's leave Germany and Europe for a second, and let's go to a completely different area, namely Congo. What do we have here? Here we have a school in Congo, which is covered with a PV system of 61 kilowatt peak. That's a project powered by the United Nations World Food Program. And here it's not about self-consumption optimization. It's not about optimizing the amount of energy used from PV instead of buying from the grid. It's not about having a small return on invest. Here it's about stabilizing an unstable external energy grid. So what we have here is an area that was suffering by an unstable energy grid, was suffering by regular blackouts. So what they needed was a stable energy supply that is able to cover any gaps whenever there is an external blackout. So what we have here is, again, a system provided or powered by the UN. What we have here is multiple LVS, so the low volt system from BYD, over or around about 200 kilowatt hours with Victron inverters, so it's a three-phase backup solution. And again, now that system operator, the United Nations World Food Program, is able to stabilize an unstable grid to make sure that they always have electricity when needed. Okay, self-consumption optimization, check. Backup, check. Now let's imagine that we don't have an unstable energy supply or unstable energy grid. Let's imagine we don't have any energy infrastructure whatsoever. Even in that case, again, an example from Congo, again, a project from UN, in this case, UNICEF. So what they did is it was an area where there was a hospital close and they didn't have external energy supply. So what they needed is an off-grid solution. So a complete island solution that provides energy infrastructure where there has not been any energy infrastructure before. So what we have here is a container with 10 LVL. Every LVL has 15.4 kilowatt hours. So in total, we would have here 154 kilowatt hours combined with 3 Victron inverters. So we have a full-blown three-phase off-grid system, completely off-grid, completely isolated island application. So by providing this container to that region, now we have electricity where there has not been any external energy grid providing. So that again proves that those systems from BYD are the number one solution, not only for families or for businesses, but also even for the United Nations for very, very harsh conditions, not only in Germany, but also in Congo, not only for on-grid application, but also for off-grid. So you might ask yourself, why am I talking about it? What do you have from that? Well, what you have from that is proven reliability. That's not only something that we say or our colleagues from Krannich, but also colleagues from yourself. So what we have here is a survey among installers, so PV installers that install different battery brands, and those installers have been asked what they pay attention to when choosing a battery brand. So there are things like quality, after sales, price, efficiency, etc. And then those same installers, so your colleagues, have been asked to name the battery brands that come into their mind as the most positive ones. And here BYD has been ranked as number one. I removed the other brand names here, but I mean, you can look it up on the internet. But again, that just proves that those systems are super reliable. Again, 1 million systems in the field and a lot of experience in different conditions, different configurations, and they're just reliable. All right, so with that being said, let's jump into the product portfolio. So 10 years of anniversary, which makes us all very proud. And the current existing product portfolio is or was this one. We have a high voltage product range, which is the HVS, HVM, and then we have low volt product ranges, which is the LVS, LVL. The most popular system, above all, is the high voltage, thanks to its high efficiency, but especially LVS and LVL are, let's say, the number one battery systems when it comes to bigger systems, but also backup and off-grid. But in Europe, high voltage tends to be number one in selection, and that product portfolio is now available since 5 years, and again makes the most out of those 1 million installed systems. So you might ask yourself, well, if it runs that well, why are there news? Well, there are news because for two reasons: 10 years of anniversary, that's time to celebrate, and also to bring you some updates. But also over the last 5 years that this product line was around, BYD was not sleeping, but working on some additional benefits, some additional updates. So this is why this year we're super excited to bring to you, to present to you the newest generation of residential battery applications from BYD, the newest members in the Battery-Box product family. All right, I will start from the left and then we go to the right. Let's start from the left. The new flagship in the Battery-Box product portfolio is the Battery-Box HVB. So HV, I think you can guess what it stands for. HV stands for high voltage. All of those new products are high voltage products, so very efficient. And the B in HVB stands for blade cell. So I don't want to spoil you too much, but because I will talk about it later on, but B stands for blade cell. So the HVB is the first residential battery system ever that features the world famous lithium iron phosphate cell from BYD, the blade cell. Why this is such a milestone, let's say, why this is such a milestone benefit for installers and end customers, I will explain later. But one thing I can mention already, actually I mentioned it earlier, is both the safety and also density, but we will talk about it later on. Then there is also an upgrade to the already existing product portfolio HVS and HVM, which BYD brings now into 2025 with the Plus series. So HVS becomes HVS Plus and HVM becomes HVM Plus. Why the Plus? Because HVS and HVM Plus bring some additional benefits compared to the HVS HVM, but I will talk about it in a few minutes. Both of those systems, the HVB featuring the blade cell and the HVS and HVM Plus with some additional benefits, are battery only to be combined with external inverter brands. So our inverter partners like, for example, Fronius, Costal, and Kako. On the right-hand side, there's another world premiere, which is that BYD brings their own first or fully integrated all-in-one solution. So what we have on the right-hand side is the HVE, also a high voltage battery, and you can already see that it has a completely different form factor compared to the Battery-Box products that BYD had in the portfolio before. But what you can really see as big news is that BYD is bringing their own residential high voltage inverters, the so-called Power-Box, TH and SH. So one of them is single phase SH and the other one is three-phase TH. So what we have here on the right-hand side are fully closed all-in-one exclusive solution, HVE with Power-Box, Power-Box with HVE combined. On the left-hand side, you have flexible batteries to be combined with external inverters, like, for example, Fronius, Costal, and Kako. All right, quite some news. So let's get into some details and let's start with the new flagship, which is the HVB. So as I said already, HV stands for high voltage, so it's a high voltage battery with the blade cell, the latest and greatest lithium iron phosphate cell from BYD, the world famous blade cell that is also requested by many other battery, or like, let's say, system integrators. And the advantage from the blade cell is safety on the one hand and also density. I will show you in a minute. But first, let's have a look into the different capacity options that are possible with the HVB. So with the HVB, it's possible to start with 2 modules in one tower, which gives you a capacity of round about 6 kilowatt hours. And it's possible to have up to 10 modules in one tower, giving you a capacity of up to 30 kilowatt hours. So from 6 kilowatt hours up to 30 kilowatt hours, you are able to design capacities of different ranges, and every additional module that you put into the system gives you an additional 3 kilowatt hours of capacity. So the capacity steps are 3 kilowatt hour steps. One big highlight, I mentioned it already, the blade cell makes that system super, super compact, super dense. So what we have here, the HVB with 30 kilowatt hours, 10 modules, might sound like a lot. 30 kilowatt hours, 10 modules. But when you have a look at the system size, the tower has only a height of 1.3 meters, 130 centimeters in height. So it's very, very compact given the high capacity of 30 kilowatt hours, which makes the system very nice not only to be installed and to carry it around and transported by installers, but also nice to look at once it's installed in the, for example, basement of the end client. Once you reach 30 kilowatt hours in one tower, it's possible to also parallel connect up to 3 towers. They need to be the same size, every tower, so that gives you the possibility to have capacities of up to roughly 90 kilowatt hours. 30, 30, 30, 90 kilowatt hours. Okay, here you see again the different options. So it starts with 2 modules. Every module has 3 kilowatt hours roundabout, and then it's very flexible and you can extend it any given time. So here again, if you are unsure whether or not you want to, let's say, do 20.7 kilowatt hours or 17.8 kilowatt hours, you can start small, and then later on, once the customer really proves that he needs additional capacity, you can just extend at any given time. So what is the big, big benefit of the HVB over the other products that are there in the market? Well, it's the capacity, it's the density. So here we have a one-on-one comparison. On the left-hand side, we have the HVB featuring the blade cell, which makes the whole module super compact. So what we have here is a module with 3 kilowatt hours, which is more capacity than before, but with a weight of only 27 kilogram, which is significantly less than before. Before, the HVS HVM had a weight of around about 38 kilogram. So the HVB is not only more capacity, but it's also smaller and lighter in weight, which makes it very nice for installers to handle and to do the installation. But also it makes it possible to have a very compact and slim design. How compact? Well, the best way to really visualize the milestone here is by comparing the HVB with the previous product. So in the previous product generation, the HVM, you could stack up to 8 modules on top of each other to reach a capacity of 22 kilowatt hours. But that tower was over 2 meters high. For the for the HVB, on the other hand, even with 10 modules and a capacity of 30 kilowatt hours, that tower would still be very compact with only 1.3 meters in height. So again, it is significantly smaller compared to the previous generation and also compared to other battery products that are there in the market. How? How was BYD able to bring that much energy into that small space? Well, again, the answer to that is by providing the cells, and in this case, it's the blade cell from BYD. And the blade cell, again, is the, let's say, most famous LFP cell that there is worldwide. And it's famous for multiple reasons. One of them is safety, but also it's very compact. And thanks to the shape factor, it's possible to combine them very closely to each other. And what BYD also did with the HVB module is they skipped one step in the production. So typically what you do is you have multiple cells, you put those cells into a module and that module into a pack, or into a pack and the pack into a module. In this case, however, BYD skipped one step. They take the cells and put them directly into the finished module. No smaller packs that are in the module, so you skip one step, making the system again more dense, more compact, and also more robust. Let's talk about safety for a moment, because I already said LFP cells, lithium iron phosphate cells in general, are super safe. But with the blade cell, BYD really redefined the way we think of safety with regard to batteries. And to show that, I have a video. I hope it plays well. So I will go to the next page. And on the left-hand side, you see the blade cell from BYD, where nothing happens. And on the other side, you have a different prismatic cell with a different cell chemistry from a different supplier. And you really see the big advantage of the LFP blade cell from BYD because nothing really happens in that nail penetration test. And this is really amazing because other cells, they tend to not perform that well when you penetrate them with a cell. As you can see here, they smoke, sometimes even explosions and so on. But with the blade cell, it's super safe. The temperature just increases to around about 60 degrees, but that's it. So that cell is very, very safe, proven, and that's the reason why it's so popular and a milestone in the business. Okay, so very compact design, but BYD is not only thinking about the installer, so making a small module easy to be installed, but also thinking about the end client. So the challenge is to design a system that is easy to be installed, but also looks nice. Well, the solution for that is hidden handles. Those handles, as you can see, are on top of every module. So the installer with just 27 kilogram of module weight, which is kind of small and lightweighted, has an easy time to install the systems. But once the modules are installed, those handles, they just disappear. They're not visible anymore for the end client. So those modules have a very nice finish. The whole system has a very nice finish. So you don't see any gaps or screws or anything like that because it's one single cast casing for every module. And once the system is put in place, you don't see any gaps or screws. It's one nice finish. So it's a high quality battery. The installation also is a lot easier than before. So the BCU, the head unit, is able to allow the installer to do external cabling without opening any panels, without trying to put some cables through some throughputs. Instead, every cable connection, it doesn't matter if it's DC or internet or grounding or the communication connection with the inverter, all of those connectors are standard connectors. So for DC, BYD is using MC4, and for communication, BYD is using RJ45. And with that, it's possible to have very easy installation of the cabling just within a few minutes. And talking about having a system that looks nice, there are two ways to have the cables exit the system. There's one back exit and there's a side exit. So depending on how you arrange the system in the basement of the customer, you have different cable ways to make sure that the system also looks nice. As said, you can extend the system at any given time. And the big advantage to the previous generation is that you don't need to pay attention to any SoC when you do the extension. You can do the extension really at any given SoC. So before that, you had to follow the 30% rule to make sure that all modules are at around about 30% when you do the extension. But for the new product generation, HVB, but also the other new products, you don't need to take care of any alignment of SoC because the system has automatic balancing and will take care of it itself. So again, very easy, not only during installation, but also later on once you see the need for extension, just go there, lift the BCU at the module, at the BCU, and the system will recalibrate itself over time. So no need to make sure that the modules are manually adjusted because it will do it automatically. The system is also reliable when it comes to the environmental conditions. So before it was -10 to +50 degrees Celsius environmental temperature, but with the new product generation in the newest stage, the temperature range has been increased even further. So now it's from -20 to +50 degree. So a temperature delta of 70 degrees from -20 to +50 degree, and the system is still able to work, which gives a lot of reliability. Now, reliability and capacity is not everything. So you can have up to 30 kilowatt hours in one tower, which is super small, but 30 kilowatt hours, that's just energy. If you want a system that is able to cover every load in every critical situation, like for example in blackout situations, you don't only need high capacity, you also need high power. And the HVB has high power. So if you have a system of 30 kilowatt hours, so 10 modules in a tower of 1.3 meters in height, it's possible to have a power of 25 kilowatt rated nominal, with the possibility to double that power for a time duration of 15 seconds. Why is that critical? Well, because you don't only want to do self-consumption optimization, what you also want to do is, for example, backup. Remember like 2 or 3 weeks ago in Europe, in Southern Europe, we had a big blackout in Spain, in Portugal, and the southern area of France. Well, what you then need is a system that doesn't only have a lot of energy capacity, but also high power to be able to cover critical loads. And here again, with a high power rated of 25 kilowatt, the system is ready to support everything. But also other areas of usage, like for example, dynamic grid tariffs. So for example, external electricity bill prices that are very volatile and change over the day. If you have a high power battery, you can participate in arbitrage, in trading into the system to make sure that you buy the energy, the electricity once it's cheap, and you can sell it once it's expensive. And here again, you don't only need energy, you need power, and the battery is very powerful. And then another milestone for the HVB is that BYD has increased the warranty from standard 10 years to 15 years. So the HVB has 15 years of warranty, which is additional 50%. And for that warranty, you don't need to do anything like, for example, connect the system to the internet. The 15 years warranty, as BYD stated, is a standard warranty for the product, which again proves that BYD is very, very confident in that system thanks to the superior blade cell. Now the HEB again is a battery only and to be combined with external inverter partners. So at market start, it's planned to be compatible with Fronius, Costal, and Carco. And then later on, some additional inverter models and brands might be added to the list. When is market start? Well, it's expected by Q3 of this year, so late summer, early autumn of this year, that the HVB will come to Europe. So to summarize, we have the first residential battery with blade cell, which makes the system super compact, super reliable, and also gives 15 years of standard warranty. And it's easy for installers to install the system thanks to just 27 kilograms per module. And it's possible to have up to 30 kilowatt hour of capacity in a space of just 1.3 meters in height. So again, the system very compact and will be the new flagship in the residential battery world. All right, so that's one big news, the HVB. Other additional news feature the HVS HVM, which was very, very popular in the market. So no wonder that BYD has an idea also for HVS HVM, which is an upgraded version, an HVS Plus and an HVM Plus. So what does that mean? What does upgrade mean? Well, the HVS HVM looks similar to the HVM and HVS and HVM Plus looks similar to HVS HVM, but it has some very important updates. Mainly, it features the same BCU like the HVB. Because of that, the installation is easier because you have external cabling, so standard connectors, installation of cabling within a few minutes, but also because of that, you have automatic balancing, automatic configuration, so you don't need to do configuration via app. And also you can extend the system at any given time without paying attention to aligned SoC. For the previous generation, you had to make sure that it's always 30% when you do the extension, but for the HVS Plus, HVM Plus, this is not necessary anymore. And again, the reason, thanks to the fact that it features the same BCU, it also features the same app like the HVB. So all of the new product generation, HVB, HVS Plus, HVM Plus, and HVE, they all feature the same topology and the same app. So it's the same environment, the same installation. So it makes it easier for the installer to have those products in their product portfolio. The rest, for example, the capacity ranges, also some of the compatibilities, for example, Fronius, Costa, and Carco, they remain probably the same. But here again, there will be a compatibility list, and the HVS Plus, HVM Plus is also planned to come to Europe by the end of summer this year and early autumn, so very, very soon. All right. So we've covered HVB, we covered HVS Plus and HVM Plus, but there was another product, which is the HVE. And the HVE is the first fully integrated solution from BYD, which means it's not only a battery, it's not only a high voltage battery, but it's also an inverter. So this is the first time that BYD brings a battery including an own inverter. And that system is completely integrated, so that battery only works with the own BYD inverter, and that BYD own inverter only works with that battery model, so with the HVE. The HVE, as you can see here, has a different shape factor, a different form factor, so it's more slim. It has a less depth. And there are two different variants of the inverter of the Power-Box from BYD. There's a single phase called SH, so single phase high voltage SH, and there's a three phase called TH, so three phase high voltage TH. And again, those inverters only compatible with the HVE. So the inverters, both the single phase and the three phase, come in different power classes. The single phase starts at 3 kilowatt and goes up to 6, and the three phase starts at 5 kilowatt and can go up to 15 kilowatt. And it's possible to have up to 3 of those inverters connected in parallel in one system, and every one of those inverters with their own battery, which gives you the possibility to have up to 45 kilowatt of power with the capacity of up to over 200 kilowatt hours if you have a battery connected to every of the 3 inverters. Let's have a look into the HVE. So the HVE is very slim with a depth that is just 14 centimeters deep, so very, very slim. But the main attraction of the HV is that it comes with 2 different modules. So there's one module with 4.2 kilowatt hours and another module with 6.4 kilowatt hours. So there's a small module and a big module. And the revolutionary concept here is that you can combine those 2 different modules in one tower. So one tower of 3 modules can consist of 3 times small module or 3 times big module, or it's small, big, small, or big, small, big. So you can really combine those 2 modules freely and flexibly, and that gives you even more flexibility in terms of capacity, range, and then also in designing the system based on the needs of the customer. Again, the form factor, the shape factor is very different. So it's a slim system with only 14 centimeters in depth. And here the same logic applies, that you can extend at any given time. So you don't need to worry about 30% rule or anything, because there's an automatic balancing. So the system takes care of it itself. The installation is plug and play, so you can just stack the modules on top of each other. Please note those modules have different weight. So the module with 4.2 kilowatt hours obviously is a bit smaller and lighter in weight than the bigger module with 6.4 kilowatt hours. But again, you can mix and match based on the needs of the customer. And thanks to the new shape factor, which makes the system very slim in terms of low depth, this is the first battery box from BYD that is not only possible to be installed as a floor installed system, but also as a wall mount installed system. So there's an additional accessory that you can get to make sure that you can also install that tower to the wall as a wall mount system. The HV also is very reliable, brings a warranty of 15 years, but in order to get that warranty, make sure that you connect that system to internet. Otherwise, you only have 10 years warranty, but once you connect it to the platform of BYD, you get 15 years warranty. And here you also have a very high temperature range of -20 to up to 50 degree, and also high reliability and so on. So the HV is also flexible in terms of capacity. Let's have a look into the different inverter options. Again, BYD plans to bring 2 BYD inverters. One is a single phase, one is a 3-phase in different power classes each. Generally speaking, the single phase has a bit less power than the 3-phase inverter, and then it typically depends on the market. So there are some markets, like for example, the German-speaking markets in Europe, they prefer, generally speaking, 3-phase inverters. But there are also some other markets, like for example, Italy, where single-phase inverters are very, very popular too. Some advantages about those inverters, so especially the single phase inverter, which comes in compact power classes, has a battery voltage parameter requirement that is very low. So it can start with just 80 volt DC of the battery. So it's possible to just start with one module, namely the 6.4 kilowatt hour module, the bigger module. And then you have a very compact system with one single phase inverter, and that one module is 6.4 kilowatt hours. Again, you can have up to 3 of those inverters connected in parallel, every one of those inverters with a battery connected to it. So one battery to one inverter, one battery to one inverter, one battery to one inverter, all those inverters connected in parallel, or you can have up to three HVE connected in parallel, and then those three batteries HVE connected in parallel connected to one inverter, and that times three, so it gives you quite some capacity and also quite some power, up to 45 kilowatt if you have three times the three-phase inverter, and up to 210 kilowatt hours if you have 9 battery towers. So to summarize, the HVE has a completely new shape factor. It's possible to connect it to the wall. It has two different modules that you can connect, mix and match with each other. And that's the first fully integrated solution from BYD that is compatible only with the own BYD inverter, and that BYD inverter is compatible only with the new HVE battery model. The same app can be used here. The same app can be used for all the new batteries, for HVB, HVS Plus, HVM Plus, and HVE. So it's one aligned environment. So with all those new products that BYD brings into the market, into the residential area, we are very proud and also very confident that BYD once again will reshape the way we think of what's possible in the area of renewable energies, and to push the energy transition forward. Now, we've covered residential applications, and I have a few minutes left, so I want to briefly also talk about bigger applications like CNI and utility before I finish the presentation with a sneak preview into the car division. So let's start about the next bigger step, and the next bigger step is CNI. So not residential anymore, but commercial and industrial applications. And BYD has here a solution too, specifically targeted to CNI customers, namely the Max Lite. The Battery Max Lite is a rack system that features 4 to 12 modules. So in one rack, you open the door, minimum 4 modules, and you can put up to 12 modules in that rack. If you start with 4 modules, you have a capacity of 30 kilowatt hours, and if you add up to 12 modules in a rack, you would end at the capacity of 90 kilowatt hours. That means that every module has a capacity of 7.45 kilowatt hours. And that's not enough, because you can parallel connect up to 32 of those Battery Max Lite in parallel connection, giving you a capacity of up to 2.8 megawatt hours. Here you see a screenshot of the datasheet, and you see here again that it's a real high voltage system. So those modules are connected in series, not in parallel within a rack. And because of that, you have a high voltage. So even the smallest configuration with 4 modules and just 30 kilowatt hours has a voltage of 300 volt. And if you have the full-blown stack with 12 modules inside, then you already have a voltage of over 900 volt. Again, those systems are flexible because the Max Lite can also be extended at any given time. The main difference is that you don't put the modules on top of each other, stackable, but instead you have to open the door and put the modules inside like a drawer system. So here again, very flexible. And there's one highlight which puts the Max Lite apart from other CNI solutions, which is the high power rating. So the Max Lite has a C rate of 1. That means that, for example, a 90 kilowatt hour battery has a power of 90 kilowatts. So it could be charged and discharged fully in just 1 hour. And again, that is very powerful. And if you compare with other CNI batteries in the market, most of them have 0.5 or 0.25 C, but the Max Lite has 1 C, which again is very powerful. But you have to pay attention, because that's just the battery. You have to make sure that you combine it with the right inverter, because maybe the inverter is the power bottleneck. So, but again, it gives you some flexibility. The temperature range here is also very high, from -20 to +50 degree. And again, the Max Lite is just a battery to be combined with external inverters. That compatibility list as shown here is not final, so we strongly recommend to check the latest configuration list, the latest compatibility list on the webpage before designing the system. The Max Lite again brings all the advantages of the residential battery box product family: safe cells, modularity, external inverters, easy to be installed, LFP cells. All of those benefits now are also available for CNI. And why is that a big thing? Well, it is a big thing because CNI brings additional business cases compared to residential applications. In residential applications, it's typically self-consumption optimization, but for CNI applications, you don't only have self-consumption optimization, you also have, for example, peak shaving applications, or you have EV infrastructure, or you have emergency blackout, off-grid mode, all those things that are even more important for business operators compared to families. And this is why CNI is an area that is supposed to go big very quickly. Okay, so we covered residential, we covered CNI with Max Lite. Let's have a look into utility, because BYD also has a product for bigger storage applications. So the utility area here, it's the MC Cube. The MC Cube brings a capacity of around about 500 kilowatt hours in two different power classes. There's 0.5 and 0.25 C. And the interesting thing about that cube concept is that, again, it has the blade cell and the blade to system design. So the blades are the cells are directly put into the cabinet. So the whole MC Cube is very, very compact with around about 500 kilowatt hour in such a small space. And it's possible to scale those cubes in different numbers. So it starts with around about 500 kilowatt hours, but you can have up to 10 of those in a 20-foot container, which gives you around about 5 megawatt hours. And then those 20-foot containers, you can scale as many as you want. So as you see here, those MC Cube powered big facilities, they are installed all around the globe with over 60 gigawatt hours of installed capacity, which makes the MC Cube one of the most popular and most installed utility-sized batteries globally. All right, so last point is BYD Auto. So as already said, BYD is not only a producer of battery cells and batteries of different sizes, but also the biggest producer of electric vehicles globally. So when it comes to the number of sold new energy vehicles, like electric vehicles, BYD is number one globally with well above 10 million installed systems, cars with well above 10 million installed cars, sold cars. And you see here, for example, the bus in London, you see here taxis in Belgium, but you also see, for example, the Han, which is one of 8 models that are available in Europe as of today. And the interesting thing that you really have to digest is that here again, the core component that defines the safety of an electric vehicle, the performance of an electric vehicle, the range of the electric vehicle, all of that is defined by the cells, by the battery, which is the most valuable component in an electric vehicle. And here, not only the full vehicle is designed and made by BYD, but also the core component inside, the battery, is also designed and made by BYD, because BYD is also a battery cell manufacturer. And here the blade cells are used. So the latest and greatest LFP cells, so lithium iron phosphate, which is the safest technology there is, and the one that is also being used in HVB is also used in those vehicles. And again, there are 8 different vehicles already available in Europe. So if you're interested in that, just reach out to one of those car dealers. And with that being said, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'm here to respond to all of your questions. Thank you.
So, thank you, Yassin, for the presentation, and thank you to all the attendees for taking time to attend, and also for asking so many questions. So the majority of questions was already answered within the presentation. We had lots of questions regarding compatibility, and I just want to put out again that you can find the compatibility list on the BYD website. And please also make sure to download today's presentation, because all the information you hear now will be in there as well. So to come to one question I received, so please ask questions if you have any. We are still here and have time to answer them. But let's start with one question regarding the battery cycles. Is there any information about the battery cycles of, for example, the BYD HVM batteries, and where can our installers find this information?
So the battery cells are, proven in millions of applications, but cycle is something that is not really defined. So what is a cycle? If you charge from 0% to 100% and back to zero, that is a cycle, right? Easy. But what if you charge from 0% to 30, then down to 20, then up to 50, and then down to 10? What's that now? Is that a cycle? Is that two microcycles? And if it's two microcycles, are they affected by a penalty factor? So it gets messy very quickly. This is why BYD does not work with cycles in the warranty letter. Instead, it works with an energy minimum amount that it guarantees for every product. And that minimum energy amount in megawatt hours is stated in the warranty letter. Where can you find the warranty letter? The warranty letter is available on our website and also on the website of Krannich. And there you can see the details for every product. It doesn't matter if it's the HVM or HVB, but generally speaking, it's designed in a way that it easily covers the system operation of 10 or 15 years.
Thank you very much. I think that answers the question. We received no questions so far. So I think that's about it.
Very good.
So thank you very much, Yassin. I think we don't mind not having any questions.
Yes, thank you
So
also, Katharina, for organizing everything. Thanks for all the participants. And if you happen to have questions, maybe later on, don't hesitate to reach out to, for example, Krannich to ask your questions, and then you will get those responses as soon as possible. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.
thank you. I have nothing to add to that. So we will see each other in the next webinar. Bye-bye.
Bye.